short, but I did stripping. And the main thing was using your body in a very dance form, not like ballet, but in a form of, it's supposed to have been tempting. I don't know if they call it tempting, if it was really tempting or not. It was the art form of being able to take your clothes off and still look good, dressed, and you were of great value if you could do this and dance too.
So how did they fit that into the big band shows? There would be certain numbers. The band would play behind this.
Yes.
And
on most of the shows that had, when they had variety shows, the average variety show had a shake dancer or a striptease artist on it.
did you ever work with all women's groups? Did you ever perform in front of the all women's groups?
Yes, I've worked with all kinds of bands,
Right.
all mixtures of bands.
Right. Ever with the International Sweethearts or some of the bands?
No,
some of the
I
females?
knew a lot of them because these shows were always meeting on the road in the late 40s and early 50s. All of the bands traveled at that time all over this country, and we would meet these shows on the road because we worked in all the theaters and dance halls all over this country, the South, wherever. And most of the times you would meet somebody on the road. I remember we would be working in one theater, and Louis Armstrong would be working in another, and I've met dancers out on the road like Chicky Grimes and all the great interpretive dancers here from New York. You meet them on the road because at that time it was a lot of show business and a lot of traveling and a lot of shows that had, like I said, complete shows, what we call the chorus lines and 2 or 3 singers, and especially comedians, and the comedians would work with the chorus lines, and they were really big variety shows.
That's where your father stood out, because with these dancers, getting to the dancers, your father and people like him, that other guy, Tom, I forget his name, they wrote the arrangements. See, these dancers had very special arrangements that required really big bands to play them. And there were special arrangements, and your father was outstanding in that. And I remember this girl, Rosebud. Well, we say shake dancers, but they were interpretive dancers. They were exotic dancers, and the music was gorgeous, and the women were gorgeous, and what they did was gorgeous. It wasn't. It was very beautiful and very artistic. It wasn't offensive at all. It was done with great art and with great originality, which you don't see today. And while Leeta was talking, I had to smile because remember, they were doing, Sammy Davis was doing some kind of movie or some kind of show where he needed some exotic dancers. They're not out here today, and Sammy was up there trying to show these girls how to do these exotic dances. But that's where a lot of the arrangers came in, not only for the big bands and the big band sound, but for people like Leeta, who had this special music. And your father was outstanding in that, Eddie Durham.
Leeta, what were some of the numbers that were your favorite to dance to? Some of the big band numbers.
Night Train was one of my special. Black and Tan Fantasy.
All do. Yeah.
Well,
Any numbers?
one of my greatest experiences in my life was to work with Duke Ellington in the Apollo for a week. I had the opportunity to work with Basie, and
Tell me about your working with Basie.
I enjoyed working with Basie. I worked with Basie here in New York, and then I worked with Basie in upstate New York and in Albany when he had the small group.
This was in the 50s?
No, this was in in the 60s
Oh, this was
I
the
remember
later
that.
band.
when he had 5 pieces.
I remember that.
And I worked with him in Albany area during that time when you had a small group like that.
You didn't work with him in the 40s.
No. Didn't work with him in the 40s.
See, a lot of these arrangements that were made, they didn't have names either. They would take changes from certain standards and make arrangements to them. So they really had no name. They would just have the person's name on the arrangement that the music was written for. So a lot of times, if you listen to the music, you say, oh, that's the changes to, I got rhythm or something like that. But so like your dad, he would take a song like that, and he would watch an act, and he would write an arrangement using certain changes, and it would be Leeta's music. It wouldn't be a name or anything like that, unless the band chose to record it, and then they would name it something like Charlie Parker and all those guys did. And pretty girl too.
He didn't do that to Birdie.
And she was so pretty, and every night he pop in. Black eyes.
He probably thought she liked it.
Why would you think somebody would like
There
that?
are women that do.
Okay, ladies, we're rolling.
Okay.
Stop the gossip, girls.
Start the gossip.
Yeah.
I had to check myself because son, I get to talking. I said because I almost said that Jean Starr was Max Roach's old girl.
Oh, yeah.
I thought about that and thinking. I said, oh Jesus.
Yeah, Jean Starr was a trip.
Yes, she
Because
was.
me and her looked alike. We both played trumpet, and she left a lot
She
of
was something.
guys,
I
and,
remember-
and
I
we
remember-
looked alike too, and we
She
played
took,
trumpet.
she took
Oh,
her
my
trumpet and hit
God.
Max Roach on the head at the Apollo, and Max just kept on playing. And when that curtain went down, he hit Jean Starr and knocked her clear off that stage into a trunk. I never will forget. I said, oh Lord, and I thought about it a while ago. I said, oh my Lord, every nigga be calling me up, cussing me out. Because that was his love. He loved Jean Starr.
A lot of guys love Jean Starr.
She was.
Because I know when I went down south to play,
Oh.
they looked at me and one guy said, where you been, Jean? I said, Jean, who? Wait a minute.
You're
now."
Jean too.
Yeah, I was Jean that played, and we both looked alike.
They looked something
We looked alike.
Only Jean was a lot shorter.
Yeah, she was shorter than me. And I met her one
For
time.
a little girl, she could raise so much hell.
Oh, and every time I go into town, little southern town, I say, I'm not Jean Starr. I'm not Jean Starr.
She could play that trumpet.
Ooh, boy, yeah.
Jean would say, oh, so-and-so was so great, but have you heard me?
Yeah. I met her one time.
She and Brett Etta were two
No.
trips.
I guess so.
Those two,
Yeah, put it back to it. That's good.
those two, boy.
I met her one time. She had joined the Air Force, and I met her down in Georgia. I said, girl, you get me in a lot of trouble. We looking alike here, you know?
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you on?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Oh, okay. Jean, I want you to tell me about Roosevelt, my father's brother.
Well, actually, I don't know, too. I only met Roosevelt about once and twice. And I remember him, as you know, like the little jolly guy plays the piano. He was always jolly, and he could play that little stride piano. The faith is funny because here I am talking to Eddie Durham's daughter. And I only met Eddie for maybe once or twice like I did Roosevelt. But when I first met Eddie Durham, I was just learning how to play, and I used to hang around all the musicians, anything. So I went up to his house one day, and Roosevelt was there, and then he sat down, he says, oh, you play trumpet? Okay, so I'll just sit down and write you an arrangement. And that's how he wrote an arrangement. I'll never forget it. Old Rockin' Chair Got Me. And I never heard the song before. And I haven't heard too much since until about a couple of years ago. I heard somebody else, but not many people play the song, you know. But it's a good song. And that's all I know about Eddie and Roosevelt. But I mean, it's just fate the way we met, and now I'm talking to his daughter, which I never thought would happen, you know.
Tell me about how mysterious my father was.
How mysterious he was?
You never knew where he lived.
He was very quiet, but I never knew where he lived. If I want him, you got to see him at a jam or say, have you seen Eddie, or something like that. And that's how he was. I think he was trying to keep, well, I say, quiet or something, trying not to be with the family, you know, let his family be on a quiet side, you know. I think that's how it was. I don't know, you know. That's one of my belief, you know.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't want us in show business, in the music business.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that too. Not want to be in the music business, you know. I mean, if I had children or something, I said, well, wait a minute now. Maybe you better check this music business out because I love it, but it's still hard. And it's some people who don't have any talent get up there, and they make more money than the person who has talent. You know, I mean, you could just see it on TV or look at the late night shows or something like that, and they're trying to play guitar. They took 2 lessons, and they're playing the guitar, and they're playing some songs, and then they come say, oh yeah, come on, let's do this. We're going to promote you with all this money, and you're out there making all this money, and another person gets out there struggling to get their music lessons. They're struggling for this, struggling trying to get somebody to promote them, have all the talent in the world, and that's how the music business is, you know. But I still think the people, the jazz, is still going to prevail. I don't care if the hip hop or the other music comes in. I'm sure that jazz will always be here. That's my belief. Jazz will always be here, you know. And I'm hoping that the younger kids, like I go to the school up in where my godchild, he's up in Connecticut, and they have special ed programs, have outreach programs for the kids. So I used to go up there and do the history lesson on jazz up in the school. And a lot of them didn't know about, they knew the hip hop and all other stuff. So I Puff Daddy and the regular ones, you know. And so she called. So I said, okay, today we're going to learn about your heritage. We're going to do everything together. And I got them quiet, and I spoke to them, and I went all the way from the beginning of the jazz, all the way from when they came over, sang the gospel, and in the church, and how people from the church went into the jazz, and how all this good rhythm came from that, and how jazz came about, you know, from New Orleans, and that's where I'm from. So I hear, you know, I was brought up in I wasn't raised in New Orleans, but I go back every year to see my aunt. Now she's deceased, but I used to go back every year, and that's the first time I've ever seen a New Orleans funeral. How they walk behind you playing this New Orleans music, you know, through the streets and with the trumpets and the horns and stuff, and that was like a sight to see. I never seen that before, you know. And I don't think they have it as much as they used to have it, because of course everything's got modern. But they say if you want it, you can have it as long as you're going to pay them the money to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, have a permit to do it. You know.
So you met him. That was in Harlem.
Huh?
When you saw my father in Roosevelt, that was in Harlem.
That was in Harlem, yes. Mm-hmm. That was, I can't remember the exact street it was on.
What kind of style of piano?
Roosevelt played like a stride piano, you know. And he played very happy, played good piano and very happy. And he was a happy guy. I've never seen him, you know, he was just laid back and just happy, you know, like nothing bothered him. Eddie would go around, Roosevelt, and Roosevelt said, yeah. And he would keep on playing, you know. He was really happy. The times that I've seen him, he's really a happy man, you know. Very jolly.
At the time that you met my father, what did you know about him as far as?
Well, I heard he was a good arranger and a good musician. And that's what I heard. And I don't even remember how I even met your father. I really can't remember how I met him. I was just starting out. I was just, you know, and I used to go around in Harlem and try to hang out and meet all the musicians that I could meet. Because I just love musicians, you know.
Right. What type of, did he have a certain influence on you to continue playing or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of people had a lot of influence. When I first started playing, my stepmother and my father, especially my stepmother, she didn't want me to play trumpet. Of course, that was like a girl playing a horn, you know, I mean, come on, you know, like, come on, that's not supposed to be. But anyway, I said, okay, so in high school, I took up the drums, and I really liked the drums. I started playing the drums real good. I started even put the trumpet down and keep on playing drums, you know. And I even worked some of the clubs with a fellow named Neil Tate, and he says, come on, I got this job. And then I played the Cotton Club. I was playing a trio with him playing drums. And Billie Holiday walked in. That was like something, you know. Of course, to me, I was young, so I was like, they said, oh, that's Billie Holiday. I said, oh yeah, Billie Holiday, you know. And she sat down and talked to us, and she was very, very nice, you know. And then as it progressed, you know, I said, well, let me go. My father said, well, you want to play? You can play your trumpet. You know, I'll get you a little horn or whatever. You know, and then that's how. You know, he said, but just don't play it around me. Just finish practicing. By the time I get home from work, I don't want to hear it. You know. And then I got my lessons, and I paid for my own lessons. And these kids say, well, I can't do this. You can do anything you want to do if you set your mind to do it. Because I ate many a hard roll, butter, drank some water, did everything to pay for my trumpet lessons. And that's when I met Doc Cheatham, and he said, oh, I can't, what kind of horn is this? I said, I don't know, my father bought it. He said, whoa, man, I never heard of this, a horn from Czechoslovakia or something. The thing was terrible. He said, I can't do this, can't play with you like this. So I said, okay. He says, well, look, I got 2 horns he was teaching, and he said, I got two horns coming in that you could choose from. You know, you could take either horn. I said, well, I don't really have that much money to buy a horn. So he said, don't worry about it. Whatever horn you like, I'll buy it, and you just pay me back. And which I did. I bought the horn, I paid him back, and he took the old horn that I had that I couldn't play, he made it into the lamp, which I still have to this day. That's how bad it was. He made it into a lamp. And he bought the horn for me, and he gave me all the lessons and everything. And then we lost in contact because I went on the road and
Tell me about the old girls bands that
well,
you were with.
when I first started, I was working, people say I work with the Sweethearts. I didn't really work with the Sweethearts. I worked with Anna Mae Winburn's band. Even though they said it was but it wasn't the original Sweethearts.
Who was in that band?
She called it the Sweethearts of Rhythm.
Yeah, they did.
But it was Anna Mae Winburn, you know, had it, you know, and I didn't. I was just starting.
What did she do? She took some people from the Sweethearts and like they played as
I
a
don't
small
even
band
know,
or
to tell you the
something?
truth. I don't even know where the girls came from. All I know, she called me and they said, oh, we need a trumpet player, you know. I said, okay, and I was just happy because I never was on the road or anything, so I said, sure. And then she says, well, you know, you got to learn the book and all this kind of. I said, of course I learned the book. Like I said, I just started playing. I didn't know all the songs or whatever they had, but it didn't take me long to you know, get the book to use and stuff. And there was an experience going on the road, you know. The band was good. I can't even remember now who was in it. I think Willie Barton was in the band.
Willie Barton was
when I
in the
went,
band.
you know.
That's when I first.
And
How do you feel it's changed for women now in the music business? Any change or
well, it's a little bit better.
do they
It's a little bit better. Not that much better. A little bit
recognition
better.
wise?
No.
Yeah, no, not that much recognition, you know. It still is not, you know, not that much recognition for the women. I don't know, you know.
Although it's not frowned upon now to be a woman in the business, it's still not. You still don't get the recognition.
It's still a lot to be desired because even when you make CDs or make a record, you go to the record and as soon as they say, oh, woman, blah, 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 they don't want to even play the CD for you. They don't want to play the tapes for you. As soon as they see you're a woman. I had an instance where I got hired for a job and my name was Jean, so the guy I guess he thought I was a guy, you know. So when I went in, he said, oh, I see you carrying a trumpet, but where's your old man? We're ready to start. And I'll never forget that. I said, what do you mean? And he says, well, we're waiting for somebody named Jean. And I said, you got the horn there, so where is your old man? So I says, well, what you see is what you get. I mean, I'm in for the night, you know.
Is my old man in my case?
So, I mean, it was funny because then he said, Gene, I thought, you know, he said, the guy recommended you, but I thought you was a guy. I said, he didn't say you was a woman. I said, well, does it make any difference as long as I can play your music? So he was like real outdone. So he says, oh, so he got on the bandstand and he went through every key he could think of that I couldn't play in. And I said, don't hurt yourself because any key you play in, I'm going to play in. So finally he got down to his B flat and his C what he plays in, you know, with the easy keys, you know. I said, you're going into the F sharps. And I said, I still can play it, so don't even worry about it, you know. But he was very, he didn't like it. Even though I could play, he still wasn't. And that was unnecessary. That's why I say, so now, even though you can play, they still won't let you in, you know. I could be Wynton Marsalis, I could be, you know, like Clark Terry, and all of them roll into one. And they're still not going to give me that recognition that I'm supposed to have, or anyone's supposed to have, you know. Certain people get it, but that's so rarity, you know.
And from them days, it was only the light skin, like Lena Horne and
Yeah, it's true.
Billy.
It's true. It's only in the later years they start, that's where the Darlings of Rhythm came in and the other girl bands came in because they were brown skinned. And even they had what they called the dancers, called the brown skinned models. You know, I think it was Irvin C. Miller, that's when they start talking about tan, you know, bringing that. But speaking of recognition, Melba Liston just passed away. And she and your father were very good friends. There was a great respect there. Melba was a great trombone player and a great arranger. And you should see the credits. But they only bring this out when you die, which is ridiculous. This girl has written arrangements for all the big bands, Dizzy Gillespie, everybody else. But people didn't realize the multitude of work that this girl had done until her funeral. That's ridiculous. But this is what you still go through that. You know, I'm an organ player, and I was one of the first ones out there. Wild Bill Davis was the one who told me that since I was an organ player, you know, switch over to jazz, because I played pipe organ at Fisk University. And he said, switch over to jazz. Nobody was out there playing jazz but Wild Bill Davis, myself, Bill Doggett, and the other guy, Jackie Davis, who just passed away. And Shirley Scott came on later. And but what happened, you deal also with politics. You got, and a man told me a long time ago, disc jockey in Chicago, he wrote a song called Blow Top Blues for down in Washington. And I never forgot this. He told me, he said, you want to be a star? And I said, I just want to be a good musician. If the star comes, that's the icing on the cake. And he says, well, you know, you're going to reach the crossroad. You're going to pay a price. Can you pay that price? I didn't understand what he was talking about at that time. But now I know. And you have to decide whether you're going to stick to the straight and narrow or you're going to go that route, you see. That's what you got to deal with also. And many my friends who went the route, well, we bury them, you know. And I think that's one reason why your father was so, because I was shocked to meet you and all these children and all that, because Eddie was very, very secretive about this side of the family. You know, he never, we didn't know nothing about him having
We
all
sure
these-
didn't. I said, where's Eddie? Where's he live? Where's
Eddie
Eddie at? You
Durham,
know?
what daughter? No, I didn't know. I knew he had a son. But all these other kids and all that, we didn't know anything about it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Eddie was like he was. Eddie was very sweet, very, you never knew what he was thinking. But you could see it in his music. You
He
know.
was very quiet.
He was very quiet,
Very soft
very
spoken.
cool, very
I never
soft-spoken.
saw him angry.
Never,
Never saw him angry.
And some of those musicians used to give him a fit, especially those girls like Ella Reese Thompson and Eddie Smith. I hope you hear me, Eddie. And
He smiled.
and he would smile. You know, and say, that's not correct. Play it over again. I ain't gonna. And he would never raise his voice. He was cool, but he always kept his family separate from his professional life, and I respect him for that. Only thing is, but I don't see it here. I think if you really had the zeal, like some of us did, because as long as I can remember, I knew I was going to be a musician. My dad said I was going to be a missionary, but in my heart of heart, I knew what I was going to be, and I didn't argue with him. He says, "You're going to be a missionary," and I said to myself, I'm going to be a musician. Now, when you've got that kind of zeal, where you know what you were put here to do, I don't think Eddie would have stood in your way. If you would have shown him, I'm a musician, I gotta play, I want to play, I'm quite sure he would have never stopped any of you from playing. But my kids, they thought that we were going to force them into music. So when they would send the instruments home and the papers for us to sign for them to play, they'd hide it under the bed. And when I clean up, that's one thing I gotta stop here for. I don't understand how these kids do all this stuff today and their parents don't know what they're doing. Cause I check mine every weekend. So if you have anything mama didn't want to see, you better get it out of the house. Now when I would go in there, I'd find these letters and these instruments up under the bed. And I say, hey, what's this? If you don't want to play music, it's okay. Maybe you put here to do something else. They didn't want any part of this music. You know, they didn't want any part of it, but they're together, they got their act together. So I'm saying that your father, had he known or had seen that some of you really, really wanted to play, he would not have stopped you. But he certainly kept his private life from his professional life. And another thing I want to say is, one thing, I'm not only upset about the recognition of the women and what they've accomplished and contributed to the music, I'm upset that the young people in this country don't know about their heritage and what has brought one of America's greatest exports throughout the world, which is music. You go to Japan, you go to any of these countries, those kids over there can tell you every member of bassist band, every member of Duke Ellington's band. They can tell you the roster of all the big bands, who played in them, who played in them, when, what, and where. And you come back here and you ask these kids who Count Basie is, they don't even know who he is.
Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong, they don't know who he is.
Dizzy Gillespie.
Dizzy Gillespie, they don't know, and that's not good. It's not good. And until death sets me up, I'm going to speak out about it, because something's got to be done about it.
Do you teach? Do you teach?
I don't teach because I'm a strict teacher, and I'm very busy. I have a full plate with what I have to do. That's why I don't teach. I have friends that do teach, but they do it halfway. You know, I'm a lady who won't say the other word, but they do it halfway. I can't do that. If I'm going to teach, I'm going to teach correct. I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to teach you the way it should be done and how it should be done. And if I can't do it that way, I won't do it at all. And that includes your conduct on the stage, how you walk on the stage, all of that's in with it. That's one reason why Motown was so great. Because they trained those kids how to walk on the stage, how to dress, how to conduct themselves. That's all part of it.
Who else went to Fisk University out of the jazz era?
Oh, well, Jimmy Lunsford was, you know, the great, and there were quite a few musicians from when I was going to Fisk. We had an excellent band, and we were playing Eddie Durham stock music because his stuff was in the stores. You know, they had the stocks. I don't know whether they have them now or not. If you didn't have an arranger, you could go to the music store and get the stocks. And that's where a lot of people knew about Eddie Durham. And we had a band that played all the country clubs around in the area, all the sedity clubs. And the band was made up of Tennessee State, Meharry Medical and Dental students, Vanderbilt University, and Fisk University. And we had a hell of a band. And that was one thing. There's always been integration in the arts. And when nobody was integrated, we had an integrated band. And we used to sneak people's horns out of the dormitory so they can play, because some of the musicians, their parents were determined, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a dentist, and they were determined they were going to play music. And we used to sneak their, too late now folks, we used to sneak their instruments out, you know, so they could play. And so, what am I saying? It's a wonderful life. And I have great admiration for your dad and his contribution, because if you check through, I guess, internet now, because I've noticed a lot of the music stores are closed down, but if you check, you'll see the mountain of work that Eddie Durham done for everybody.
You brought up an interesting point about the integration. Even though the country was segregated,
Yes.
music always brought
Was
races
integrated.
together.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it was underground.